Hey, what's up, everyone? Hope you're doing good because we've got to talk about the latest update for EA Sports FC 26. This isn't one of those flashy updates with big marketing lines or dramatic gameplay overhauls announced up front. And that's exactly why a lot of players are curious, confused, and in some cases, even a little skeptical about what's really going on here. So officially, EA describes this update as focusing on internal processes, stability, and backend improvements, which on paper sounds pretty boring. I get it. No one loads up a football game excited about internal processes. But in reality, these kinds of updates usually touch way more than the patch notes let on, especially when we're talking about online play, responsiveness, and overall game flow. From the moment the update went live, players across different modes started reporting smoother menu navigation, slightly quicker transitions when loading matches, and fewer random freezes that some people were running into before. These aren't things that jump out at you instantly, but after a few matches, you start realizing the game feels a bit more stable than it did last week. One of the biggest talking points around this update is performance consistency, particularly in online matches. A lot of players were dealing with weird moments where gameplay speed felt different from one match to the next, even with similar ping. Since this update, there's been a noticeable reduction in those extreme swings. It's not perfect, but matches feel closer in tempo more often than before. Passing sequences feel less delayed, first touches seem a bit more reliable, and player switching feels slightly cleaner, especially in crowded midfield situations. Again, nothing dramatic, but enough to be noticed by anyone who plays regularly. There's also been a quiet improvement in overall game stability. Fewer crashes, fewer disconnects mid-match, and fewer instances where menus would hang or take forever to load. Ultimate Team players in particular have mentioned that navigating objectives, store pages, and squad screens feels quicker and less clunky. Career mode and clubs players haven't been left out either, with reports of reduced stuttering when advancing days or loading into matches. These are the kinds of fixes that don't make highlights but massively improve the day-to-day experience. Now let's talk about the part everyone always debates after updates like this: gameplay tuning. Officially, there's no mention of shooting changes, defending tweaks, or AI behavior adjustments. But as usual, the community has been testing things non-stop, and some patterns are starting to emerge. A lot of players feel defensive positioning has tightened up slightly, especially with AI-controlled defenders tracking runs more consistently. Through balls don't seem as wildly effective as they were before, especially the blind, first-time ones launched from deep. Goalkeepers, while still not flawless, appear to be making better reactions in close-range situations, cutting down on some of those frustrating near-post goals that felt automatic before. Dribbling responsiveness is another area where people are noticing subtle differences. Skill moves feel a bit more controlled, with fewer instances of players gliding unrealistically past defenders who are perfectly positioned. That doesn't mean dribbling is dead, but it does feel like timing and angle matter a bit more now. Physical battles also feel slightly more balanced, with strength playing a clearer role when shielding the ball instead of everything being decided by animations alone. On the server side, this update seems aimed at laying groundwork rather than making bold changes. Improved matchmaking stability, better server communication, and backend optimizations all suggest EA is trying to future-proof the game as more content rolls out. This is especially important as competitive modes ramp up and player activity spikes. When servers struggle, gameplay suffers, and patches like this are meant to prevent bigger problems later rather than fix everything at once. Of course, not everyone is convinced. Some players feel the patch notes are too vague and that more transparency would go a long way. When gameplay feels different but nothing is officially acknowledged, it naturally leads to speculation. Are there hidden tweaks? Are sliders being adjusted silently? EA hasn't confirmed any of that, but history tells us that small tuning changes often come bundled with stability updates, even if they aren't spelled out line by line. Overall, this update feels like maintenance with intent. It's not here to reinvent the game or shake up the meta overnight. It's here to smooth out rough edges, reduce frustration, and quietly improve consistency across all modes. If you're someone who plays a few matches a week, you might not notice much. But if you're grinding daily, especially online, the improvements add up. The game feels steadier, more reliable, and a little more polished than it did before, and sometimes that's exactly what a football game needs to stay enjoyable over the long run.